Hello and welcome back. Today, we're diving into something that so many of us can relate to learning English. Whether you're just starting or you've been at it for a while, the journey to fluency is filled with challenges, breakthroughs, and plenty of surprises.
That's right. English is one of the most widely spoken languages in the world, and mastering it can open so many doors, from travel to career opportunities. But let's be honest, it's not always easy.
Absolutely, some people struggle with pronunciation, while others find grammar confusing or vocabulary overwhelming. And of course, there's the fear of making mistakes, which can really hold you back.
Oh, that's a big one. So many learners hesitate to speak because they're afraid of saying something wrong. But the truth is, mistakes are part of learning. If you never make mistakes, you're probably not pushing yourself enough.
Exactly, and the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. English is not just about memorizing rules, it's about communication. The goal is to express yourself and be understood, not to be perfect.
That's a great point. And learning English doesn't have to be boring. There are so many fun ways to improve, like watching movies, listening to music, or even playing language games.
Yes, and one of the best ways to improve is by surrounding yourself with English as much as possible. Change the language on your phone, follow English-speaking content creators, and try to think in English throughout the day.
Immersion really makes a difference. And another thing that helps is having conversations, even if it's just with yourself. The more you speak, the more confident you become.
So true, learning a language is a journey, and every small step counts. It's all about consistency, curiosity, and most importantly, enjoying the process.
Exactly. And another great way to learn is by finding a study buddy. When you have someone to practice with, it makes learning more interactive and less stressful. You can correct each other, share new phrases, and even challenge yourselves with fun exercises.
Oh, definitely. Speaking with others helps you build confidence, and it also makes learning feel more natural. Plus, hearing different accents and speech patterns can improve your listening skills.
Speaking of listening, podcasts like this are a great tool for learners. They help you get used to the rhythm and flow of natural conversation. And the best part, you can listen anywhere while commuting, exercising, or even cooking.
Yes, and if you hear a new word or phrase, write it down and try using it in a sentence. The more you use new vocabulary in real situations, the better you'll remember it.
That's a solid tip. And let's not forget about reading. Books, articles, or even social media posts in English can help expand your vocabulary and improve your understanding of sentence structure.
Absolutely. And if books feel intimidating, start with short stories or graded readers. They're designed for learners and make the process less overwhelming.
Right. The key is to enjoy the journey. English is everywhere, and the more you engage with it in fun and meaningful ways, the faster you'll improve.
That's such a good point, Ben. I think many learners forget that English isn't just something you study in a classroom, it's something you experience. Watching movies, listening to music, and even playing video games in English can make a huge difference.
Exactly. When you make learning fun, it doesn't feel like a chore. And speaking of movies, have you ever tried watching with English subtitles first, then without? It's a great way to train your ears.
Yes, and another fun exercise is to repeat what the characters say. It's called shadowing. You listen to a sentence and repeat it immediately, trying to match their tone and pronunciation. It really helps with fluency.
That's a fantastic method. And you know what else is helpful? Thinking in English. Instead of translating everything in your head, try to describe things around you in English, even if it's just simple sentences.
Yes, like, if you're in a cafe, you can think, I'm drinking coffee. It's hot and delicious. It might feel silly at first, but it trains your brain to process English naturally.
Right. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. A lot of learners hesitate to speak because they're worried about getting things wrong. But mistakes are part of the learning process.
Oh, definitely. Native speakers don't expect you to be perfect. They appreciate the effort, and most of the time, they'll help you if you struggle.
Exactly. The goal isn't perfection, it's communication. If people understand you, you're doing great.
And with practice, it only gets easier. It's all about consistency. Even just 10 or 15 minutes a day can make a huge difference over time.
That's the key. Small, regular practice. Learning a language is like building a habit. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
And most importantly, enjoy the process. English isn't just a subject, it's a tool that opens doors to new experiences, opportunities, and friendships.
Well said, Avor. So to everyone listening, keep going, stay curious, and make English a part of your daily life.
That's the spirit, Ben. And speaking of making English a part of daily life, have you ever noticed how much English we actually use without realizing it? Oh, absolutely. Even in non-English-speaking countries, English is everywhere, on signs, in menus, in advertisements. If you pay attention, you'll see English words all around you. Exactly, and that's a great way to build your vocabulary naturally. Instead of memorizing lists of words, just look around and notice the English that's already part of your environment.
Right. And if you want to take it a step further, you can even try writing a daily journal in English. Just a few sentences about your day, your thoughts, or even what you had for lunch.
That's a great tip. Writing helps you organize your thoughts in English, and it also helps you spot mistakes so you can improve. Plus, when you look back at your old entries, you can see how much progress you've made.
Exactly. And another thing I always recommend is finding a language partner. It doesn't have to be a native speaker. It can be someone who's also learning English. The important thing is to practice speaking regularly.
Yes, there are so many language exchange apps and online communities where you can connect with other learners. The best way to learn is by actually using the language in real conversations.
And you don't even need a partner to practice speaking. You can just talk to yourself. It sounds funny, but describing what you're doing out loud in English is a great way to improve your fluency.
That's true, and another great exercise is voice recording. Just record yourself talking about a random topic and listen back. You'll start to notice patterns, pronunciation issues, and areas where you can improve.
That's a fantastic idea. And don't forget about reading. It's one of the best ways to expand your vocabulary and improve sentence structure. Even reading short articles or social media posts in English can help.
Absolutely, and for beginners, children's books are a great start. They use simple language, and the stories are fun to follow.
Yes, and once you feel more comfortable, you can move on to novels, blogs, or even news websites. The key is to read about topics you enjoy so that learning stays interesting.
That's such an important point. If you force yourself to study things you don't like, you'll lose motivation. But if you connect English with things you love like music, sports, or travel, it becomes enjoyable.
Exactly, and learning should be fun. The more you enjoy it, the more likely you are to stick with it.
And that's really the secret to mastering English or any language. Keep it fun, stay consistent, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you grow.
That's the thing, mistakes are actually proof that you're learning. I've noticed that a lot of people are afraid to speak because they don't want to make mistakes, but that fear holds them back.
Exactly. Native speakers don't expect you to be perfect. In fact, they admire people who make the effort to learn their language. Plus, even they make mistakes sometimes.
Oh, definitely. And think about kids when they learn to speak. They make tons of mistakes, but they don't care, they just keep talking. And that's why they improve so quickly.
That's such a great comparison. If we could all approach language learning like children without fear, just curiosity and practice, we'd learn so much faster.
Absolutely. And speaking of making learning fun, do you have any favorite English learning games or activities?
Oh, so many. One of my favorites is watching a movie or series with subtitles. First, I watch it with English subtitles, and then, if I feel confident, I try without them.
That's a great idea. And if you want to make it even more effective, you can pause and repeat certain lines, trying to mimic the pronunciation and rhythm.
Yes, that's called shadowing, and it really helps with fluency. Another fun thing I like to do is singing along to English songs. It improves pronunciation, and it's a great way to remember new phrases.
Oh, I love that. And lyrics usually have a natural rhythm, which helps with sentence flow. Plus, when you sing, you tend to relax, so you're not overthinking grammar.
Exactly, and another great activity is storytelling. You can try retelling a story, in English, or even make up your own short stories.
That's a brilliant idea. It forces you to be creative with your words, and it's a great way to practice sentence structure.
And if you don't have anyone to tell the story to, you can write it down or record yourself. It's a great way to see how well you can express yourself in English.
I love that. And for people who like challenges, They can set daily speaking goals like describing 5 things around them in English or talking about what they did that day.
Yes, little challenges like that keep learning fresh and exciting. And the best part is, the more you practice, the easier it gets.
That's so true. Learning English isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave and consistent. Every small step counts.
And if you make English a part of your daily life, you'll improve without even realizing it. It's all about building good habits.
Exactly. So, for anyone learning English, just keep going, have fun with it, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because every mistake is just a step toward fluency.
Yes, and the best part is, learning English doesn't have to be boring. A lot of people think they need to sit down with a grammar book for hours, but that's not true at all.
Right. In fact, too much focus on grammar can sometimes slow people down. They get stuck thinking about rules instead of just speaking naturally.
Exactly. The key is to balance everything. A little bit of grammar, a lot of listening, and most importantly, speaking. Even if you only know a few words, you should use them as much as possible.
I agree. And speaking doesn't always mean having a conversation with someone. You can talk to yourself, describe what you're doing, or even think in English.
That's a great tip. Thinking in English is such an important habit to develop. Instead of translating from your native language, try to form sentences directly in English.
Yeah, and it's okay if the sentences aren't perfect at first. The more you do it, the more natural it will feel. It's like training your brain to function in English.
And once you start doing that, conversations become so much easier because you're not constantly stopping to translate.
Exactly. And you know what? Another thing that helps is using English in real-life situations. Like, if you go to a restaurant, try ordering in English, even if you're in your own country.
Yes, or if you're shopping online, switch the language to English. Even small changes like that can help you get used to seeing and thinking in English every day.
That's a great idea. I also recommend joining online communities or forums where people chat in English. It's a good way to practice writing and even make international friends.
Yes, and if you can, try to find a language partner. Someone who is also learning English or a native speaker who wants to learn your language. That way, you can help each other.
That's a great point. There are so many language exchange apps now, so it's easier than ever to find a speaking partner.
Exactly. And one last thing, don't compare yourself to others. Everyone learns at their own pace, and what matters is that you keep moving forward.
Yes, focus on your own progress and celebrate small wins. Maybe today, you learned a new phrase or spoke without hesitating. That's something to be proud of.
100%. Learning a language is a journey, and as long as you're enjoying it and making progress, you're on the right path.
And you know what? Another thing that really helps is watching movies or TV shows in English without subtitles if possible. It forces you to really focus on the sounds and context.
Yes, even if you don't understand everything, your brain is getting used to the rhythm and natural flow of the language. It's like training your ears to recognize words and phrases.
Exactly. And once you start understanding more, you can challenge yourself by watching content with different accents. British, American, Australian, each has its own style.
Oh, accents are so interesting. At first, people might find it hard to understand different accents, but the more you listen, the easier it gets.
Right. And that's why variety is important. If you only listen to one accent, it might be difficult when you hear someone speak differently.
Yeah, and speaking of variety, reading is another great way to improve. It helps with vocabulary and grammar naturally because you see how sentences are structured.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be complicated books. Even reading short stories, articles, or social media posts in English can be helpful.
Yes, the key is to read things that interest you. If you love sports, read sports news in English. If you enjoy cooking, find recipes in English.
That's so true. When you enjoy what you're reading, it doesn't feel like studying, it feels natural.
And writing is another great way to practice. Even if it's just writing a daily journal in English, it helps organize your thoughts in the language.
Oh yes. Journaling in English is such a good habit. Even writing a few sentences about your day can make a big difference over time.
Exactly. And if you're not sure about grammar, you can use tools like grammar checkers or even ask a native speaker for feedback.
Right. And feedback is so important. That's why joining a language group or a class can be really helpful too.
Yes, learning with others keeps you motivated. and you get to practice in a real conversation.
That's why it's important to remember English is not just about learning words and rules. It's about using the language in real life.
Exactly, and the more you use it, the more confident you become. Confidence is the key to speaking fluently.
Yes, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every mistake is part of the learning process.
100%. So just keep going, keep practicing, and enjoy the journey.
That's it. The most important thing is to keep practicing, keep listening, keep reading, and most importantly, keep speaking.
Exactly, and don't wait until you feel ready or perfect to start speaking. The best way to improve is to use English every day, even in small ways.
Yes. Talk to yourself in English. Describe what you're doing, or even think in English. The more you expose yourself to the language, the more natural it will feel.
And if you ever feel discouraged, just remember learning a language takes time. Even native speakers are always learning new words and expressions.
That's so true. Learning English isn't about being perfect. It's about being able to communicate and express yourself.
Exactly, and the more you enjoy the process, the faster you'll improve. So, make it fun. Watch your favorite movies, listen to songs, play word games, whatever keeps you engaged.
Yes, and find a learning method that works for you. Everyone learns differently, so experiment with different techniques and see what helps you the most.
And don't forget to celebrate your progress. Even small improvements mean you're getting better.
Absolutely. So, keep going, keep learning, and most importantly, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for joining us today. Keep practicing, stay confident, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.